Welcome, everybody. This is Hugh Massie, the Executive Chairman and founder of DNA Behaviour International. And today I'm delighted to be hosting another identity conversation. And I have a great pleasure to be having a conversation with Rama Nagaraju, who is a senior executive with Fifth Third Bank, and he leads the software engineering department, which is no small feat in today's world where technology is the foundation of all businesses, particularly banks and financial institutions. So he's very much the king of people and technology in there. And he's also been working with us at DNA Behaviour on one of his passion projects, which is to build a digital platform to help not-for-profit organisations connect better with their donors. So taking that, Rama, welcome.
Thank you. I will slightly amend my designation there, Hugh. I lead the software engineering function for the commercial side of our business, and we have other leaders as well. So I'm grateful and delighted to be a part of this larger ecosystem here.
No, well, that's great, and thank you for clarifying that. So, Rama, why don't you just tell me a little bit more about your life and career background and how you got to the place of leading technology from the commercial end of it at Fifth Third Bank, and then also your passion project, dealing with not-for-profit organizations and connecting with their donors.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity again, Hugh. I could break this into three parts. The first part is a really blessed and very supportive childhood I've had, which got me really good education, very secure family, and a very caring parents. So that got me good education and good foundation, which led to a reasonable job opportunities. And I got into this technology field at the time. The technology was really, having this hockey stick evolution.
Yeah.
And so all this happened, the first part happened in India. And then I started getting some opportunities to work abroad, and worked in Turkey and other places for a good length of time, which eventually brought me to the stateside. So this is my second part, which I came to the United States in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I've been nothing but blessed in being able to get the right opportunity, right support from the different people I've been interacting with. And I've also had this opportunity to work in technology areas that were in some way in alignment with what I found energy doing, analytics of different kind. And so I have been in this technology space for some length of time. And now I'll go to the third part, which is probably the most salient. I am a continuous learner. I'm always trying to pick on something new because I feel like if I stop learning is when I plateau.
Yeah.
And one of the areas of special interest for me has been behavioral sciences, which is basically an approach to understand why people do what they do and the human side of action. I recently did a program on behavioral sciences as one of the sub-curriculum at Harvard Extension School that really inspired me to dig deeper in understanding human behavior. And I've been fascinated by the other literature that's around this topic. And that's one part. And the other part is I feel there is a lot of abundance that's around us, and some of us are more blessed than others in our opportunity to do good, an opportunity to influence the world and change the world in ways that we even don't know how that can be done. And so as I was experiencing and exploring different ways to give back, that's when this overlap of behavioral sciences and this need to give back converged. People do different things because they're stimulated by different things that happen to them. And how they receive that stimulus is based off of how they're wired. And knowing why they do what they do and how they receive stimulus and do something with it, I found very meaningful. And I have been working since, and thanks to DNA behavior as well, for giving me some real tools to actually take something that was very conceptual, something that was very objective, into actual actionable tools that I can mathematically work with.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to explore how to bring these two together to create larger good in the world. So that was my background in three parts.
No, I think it's a great life journey, and there's a very clear progression there, Rama. Just going back a couple of steps, what is the right opportunity for you in the technology space? You mentioned that you were lucky to walk into the right opportunities in the tech space, but what were they, in terms of, what was going on there, and how did you, what were you doing and how did you interact?
So again, three parts to that. The first part is I graduated from an engineering school at the time when computer programming and computer engineering was becoming mainstay. And so there was a lot of broad opportunities where people were adopting computers, and personal computers was really getting personal. And so there were lots of opportunities to learn and apply. So that led to the early 2000s with the Y2K and all that stuff. I was coming in from the personal computer space.
Yeah.
People were transitioning from mainframe to personal computers. So because I started in personal computers, programming and doing all the work there, so that gave me numerous opportunities in the open system / personal computing space. And as I grew and developed in that space, the couple of areas that have been of special interest to me is in data and data analytics. And again, as data matured, the whole world started pivoting towards more analytical view of things. And so I was working myself to it, although subliminally and not deliberately. It was just as I was building on these skills. And now I have a strong bias for data, and that kind of lent itself to where I am.
And is it so I sort of sense from that it's more the data that comes out from the technology application than the technology itself?
So yes, there are again three parts to that. The first part is yes, the outcome is the data, and the second part to that is our ability to do more, and our ability to manifest things that are larger than ourselves by using the technology. And the third one is a people side of it, the creative side of it. Like
that, and that's really where I was wanting you to get to. So, if you have more, I suppose if you have more data and it's accurate and meaningful, more can be done with it. There's more outcomes that can be delivered to a user to make that user more effective. But then also there's a better experience that can be provided for people with the technology. And I think just knowing, a little bit about you, I'm sensing there's a people aspect to this that is important.
That's a big part of it. Everything else kind of evolves around it, but that's a big part of it, yes.
But what's the people aspect that's so important to you in terms of the technology and the data that's coming out?
So I can pivot it two different ways. The first aspect of the people dimension here is going back to why do we do what we do? The whole driver, the whole intention, and there is a lot that is not clearly understood in terms of how we can harness our talent, our interests in the world, and our resources together to create outcomes that are meaningful to us. Now,
yeah, okay, keep going. Sorry,
no, go on, please.
So if I'm understanding that, Rama, that the data can provide you with more useful insights to understand people and what they want in the world. So in the context of Fifth Third Bank, having greater data, for example, on the customers means ultimately a better customer experience can be provided.
Absolutely.
Is that
so yes, so it is about customer behavior, it's about customer need, it's about the broader ecosystem about customer relationships, and all of that overlapping with the people here in how they interface with that universe of data that is out there.
So it's not just ensuring that the customer has the right amount of money in the bank.
That's a small detail.
Yeah, that's a small detail.
Right.
But this is important, I think, for people to understand, because people listening to this will think of technology in a very rational way of ensuring the books add up, that people have got the right balance in the bank account. But really, it's a tool or a platform, and the outputs of it are the platform for providing a much better client experience, and that's what your interest and passion, in a lot of ways, inside Fifth Third Bank, is to ensure is delivered.
Definitely.
And that's where a lot of creativity is needed as well, is to conceive, well, what could that experience be for the customers, whether they are a corporate, and even if it's a corporate, it's still people getting the information. They've got to have a good experience, or whether it's the individual retail customer like me.
Absolutely. I mean, our special interest has been in the broader commercial space, given my domain of work, but it is people at large. And you make a great point. Like, even if you're talking about organizations, organizations are made of people, and at the end of the day, it is all about the people.
Yeah, that's right. The organization isn't much without the people. And even if we have great technology these days, and less people are needed directly in the old world functions of a bank or any organization, the organization still needs people, and it still absolutely needs customers to function. And as I think you alluded to as well, it's a lot about meaning for people these days. And people want to deal with an organization that has the right values, makes them feel understood. They're not going to accept anything else. That's where we're moving to. It's the same with, we talk a lot about the great resignation, and I think there will be the great re-engineering as well yet of organizations. It's still going to come down to how you deal with people.
Certainly.
Certainly.
And people have choice. And people have choice, and if you are not aligned, and if you don't give them the full value of the relationship, they have choice.
So that's the same principle, which is where I was trying to go to. That's the same principle with planned giving. People have choice of where they put their money. You know, I think, as you know, I'm doing a lot more work on people's relationship to money, which is then going to get them to question how they use their money. And you've got a passion in this area to help organizations trying to raise more money, to connect better with their donor bases using technology. So just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, certainly. So the genesis of my whole interest started when one of my mentors, I had a duel with one of my mentors about who would pay for dinner. He let me pay for it, and then said at the end, he put the money back in an envelope, wrote possibilities inside on that, and handed that envelope back to me and said, "You don't need this money because you've already spent it. Do something good with it." So that whole idea of discretionary savings had a very powerful influence on me. So we all have resources that are discretionary to us, that we could choose to do what we want to do with it. How do we choose to exercise that is what got me to work with nonprofits and got me to start to explore how can we create a deeper, more meaningful relationship between nonprofits and donors. And the holy grail of donor relationship with nonprofits is planned givers. People can give one-time donations or even periodic donations, but if you are a planned giver, then you are at the highest form of that relationship. So I'm trying to explore, what are some of the things that we could be doing to help create that deeper relationship between the nonprofit and the donors, such that they are aligned at a higher level of consciousness, when meaning the donors are doing things that they care about in a manner that the nonprofits are able to receive and reciprocate in action that the donors want to realize. So that is the level that I'm trying to connect.
Yeah, and behavioral sciences is clearly
absolutely
part of that in terms of getting people to see it and to get that custom experience that's right for them, because how you deal with one person in that process versus how you deal with another is important. And so where do you see technology playing a role there, Rama?
So actually, this is where DNA behavior was very, very instrumental in providing me more clarity in how to make this go beyond a concept. So now, as we said, organizations are made of people. So nonprofit organizations are made of people. Donors, planned givers, they're people. Now there are two groups of people coming together and collating and creating something that is larger. So on the nonprofit side, understanding, there is a mission to the nonprofit, and then there are people working in that nonprofit. So understanding the behavioral style of these people, their intent, their motivation, their drivers, their enablers is one side of the equation. And the behavioral dimension of the people running the nonprofit, and then the understanding of what is the intent behind the donor through again deeper analysis of their own personal identity will help create the synergy. And this is where technology plays a critical part.
Yeah, because it enables it to be done at scale.
It enables then that to be done at scale, and it also helps create alignment where there are gaps, and helps provide visibility to things that would otherwise people be blindsided to.
Yeah, visibility. It enables questions to be asked, unique experiences, opportunities to come up for people that they may, as you say, that they may not have ever seen before, to put meaning in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it adds depth to the experience, and
absolutely.
To the engagement. So you've referenced DNA behavior a little bit, but also for you personally, being an engager style. That's for our audience. People connection is something that's very important. I think you've talked a little bit about that today, that the people connection is something that's very important to you, and that's been your motivator for being in technology. But also creativity is a talent for you as well. So just tell us a little bit more about how you see your DNA talents coming out here, and what the ultimate meaningful experience is for you, both in your work and in this passion project for technology, how you want to see it come out.
Right. I appreciate you calling out the people dimension. And I do feel like I have been, and I continue to want to be a catalyst in basically helping people realize their full potential. And a lot of that has to do with our ability to deconstruct what makes our being what it is, and how can we work with, be it my team here or be it with the nonprofits that I help, work with them to understand why they do what they do, and how can we, by slowing down our thought process and by recognizing their own behavioral patterns, how can we together achieve greater good? And that is my greater purpose.
Because I think a part of this is people who are as outgoing as you are, or as much of a people person that you are. I think you started to allude to it there. People connection is very important.
Absolutely.
So being a connector of people and opportunity is something that's very important to you. It's not just people, it's the connection part, and how people are engaged, connecting them to other people, connecting them to opportunities. And in a way, technology is the vehicle.
And no, absolutely. And just if I may, Hugh, in terms of the nonprofit dynamics, it's tragic in many ways that many nonprofits are hurting today in drawing donors for the long haul. They have a lot of transactional donors. 76% of the donors who contribute are one-time donors. There's almost 50% of the donors turnover every year, and almost 50 to 60% of nonprofit spend is on fundraising. So these numbers are stark. And if you dissect this and look at these, it's all because, at least my hypothesis is, that these organizations are interacting as transactions. They're raising money, but they're not really raising the interest and attention of people. And if you can't change that transactional activity into a relational activity, then I think magic can happen. And DNA behavior is a tool that definitely enables for that connectivity to happen.
Yeah, and I know from my own experiences of where I donate, ultimately it's got to be tied to my meaning to fill me up, but I must also have the right relationship with the organization and with the leadership inside the organization. Otherwise, It's not going to happen for very long.
Absolutely. You could give once or twice, and that ends up being a transaction, and they will be spending a lot more time to find the next Hugh and the next Hugh and the next Hugh, instead of taking the Hugh that they have and go deep.
And I think that's the same with the bank. It's, in a way, is finding the banking customers' meaning, whether they're the corporate customer or the retail customer, what's important to them as humans and to their organization. And then with the technology, building the right relationship, the same principle sits there. That's the seems to be the ultimate driver for you. So Rama, taking that as a platform, because your style is important and comes through all of this. How do you see your identity in the future, and Rama Nagaraju showing up in the future world, and you living up to it now?
So I want to. It's a very hard question to answer, Hugh.
Yeah,
but
it's a lot.
If I were to distill this in very simple terms, I would say I want to be a continuous value addition to the various relationships that are happening around in the world. And I want to be able to meaningfully contribute and lift the social conversation to improve the quality of life of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about lifting the social conversation.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I think that's and lifting the social conversation, whether it's with money, and and people's experiences which go with that, or lifting the social conversation, right?
Right, and here is the thing that I strongly feel in our relationship with money, and I feel money is like air. It is necessary. It is very much around us, and our relationship with money is paramount to how we think about what is our pressing priority at any given point in time. But at some stage, money becomes secondary, and it will become the greater expression of the self. And hey, how do you fuel that and have a healthy relationship with money so that money does not drive the narrative?
Yeah, yes, money's not money. Money is what might fuel it, but you've got to have that meaning right. And I think you've got it in the right perspective there. And really, so your identity is really at the elevator of the social conversation. And from there, how people use money is really about what the social conversation is for them at the end of the day. But through your work, whether it's in Fifth Third Bank or in the not-for-profit world, is about elevating the social conversation. And every bank is going to have to learn to deal with that conversation with all of their customers in the future, because they're going to demand it. And frankly, it's a point of differentiation. Every organization, in fact, every organization is going to have to deal with it. Even talking with people last week, oil companies, for example, and agricultural companies have got to deal with it because the world's changed and how we use resources has changed. And so everything at the moment is up for grabs out there in the world. And as we probably going to have some interesting economic times as well, it's going to put this in the face of people. And
particularly given the more recent market turmoil and all that, this couldn't be more timely.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. And I think for you to be the elevator of the social conversation, of which you'll use technology, I think is fantastic. And that's a great identity, and that will probably drive you to do a lot of things going forward, corporately and privately. So Rama, as we wrap up here, if you've got any other insights that you'd like to offer for our listeners, it can be anything, any life experience, book you want to share, something you read yesterday or a year ago, whatever, movie, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I just want to, I appreciate the opportunity. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, completely impromptu, and I appreciate the conversation, Hugh. The one thing that I really feel would be very helpful and has helped me, particularly in my more recent development, is to invest time in trying to understand myself and my own intention, my own desires, and my purpose. And this could happen through whatever your tool of choice is, through attending courses or reading books or listening to podcasts or whatever your course of choice is, whatever your preferred medium is. I do feel like spending more time to deconstruct our purpose and understanding our own identity and what motivates us to do what we do is probably the most powerful Swiss Army knife we can have in our pocket today.
Well, thank you for saying that, and that's very much at the bottom of my heart. And all of this is to help people become self-empowered by understanding their identity, and their relationship to money is all wrapped up in there as well. And I think one of the things is that you come from a great home like I did. Okay, different countries, India and Australia, and we went and got jobs and did things we were interested in. But in a way, there's a level of not being conscious for a while, and then I suppose when you get to middle age, you start to think of some of these things more, because time starts to run out. You want to make every post a winner, but I think if we can help more uncover this for themselves at an earlier age, not in their 30s, but in their 20s, and even younger than that, this would be great, and will have more impact on the world.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, Rama, thank you for spending time with me, and this has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm extremely inspired.
I learned a lot, and same here. Thank you.